G'day guys, how you going? Hope you've had a good week. This week I wanted to um, talk about a few ideas that are all related to the broader idea of just putting yourself out there, trying new things, making mistakes, and I feel like it's one of those things that everybody knows is important and is valuable, but there's a few things I wanted to talk about which might be new perspectives that you could have on it. First thing I wanted to talk about is something that I only learnt about very recently myself, and it's called kintsugi. And it's a form of Japanese pottery or repairing pottery, where essentially what they do is they take pieces of pottery that have been broken. So think of plates, bowls, and that sort of thing. They get smashed up, and the way that they repair them is they piece them back together. But rather than trying to cover over the cracks and hide, the original where the fractures were, they actually line the fractures with gold, right? And I've got an example here. I took this photo. Hopefully you can see that. So this is a plate which was previously broken up. I can zoom in on it a little bit more. And all the cracks that it had are lined with gold, right? So they stand out a bit more. Now, I took that photo. It was very interesting the way that things happen in life sometimes. So I learned about kintsugi maybe 3 weeks ago. And then last week, I went down to Geelong and went to the art gallery that they have there. Art gallery? Museum? No, it was an art gallery. And I just saw this plate, and on the description, the little card that it has at the bottom there, it doesn't mention anything about kintsugi. So if this isn't technically kintsugi, or maybe it's some other variation, I apologize. It didn't say it, but to me it looks like the very thing that I read about a few weeks ago, where it's a broken ceramic, and all the cracks, like I said, rather than being hidden, covered up, and that sort of thing, they're actually almost shown off, and they're lined with gold. And I think that's really cool, because when you buy something like that, each piece is unique, right? It's something that was previously broken, and no two, plates are going to break the exact same way. And the cracks are lined with gold. And I love that as a metaphor for work in life, in terms of, not just trying to, cover over our shortfalls and our losses and our mistakes and that sort of thing, but actually being willing to display them proudly and almost show them off and have them be part of your story, because it's part of what makes you unique, right? Part of what makes that plate unique that I took a photo of. It's the same thing that makes you unique. And I just read 2 quotes this morning as well that happened to come up, and so I'll go to them now. I read a book a few years ago called Principles by Ray Dalio, which is a very good book. And if you haven't heard me mention it before, I have an app that sends me a few of my highlights every day. So things that I've highlighted on my Kindle from books that I've read. And this one came up from Ray Dalio in his book Principles. And he said, "Go to the pain rather than avoid it. If you don't let up on yourself and instead become comfortable always operating with some level of pain, you will evolve at a faster pace. That's just the way it is." Now, to me, this is kind of like a precursor of the kintsugi, the broken ceramics. It's the idea of being able to lean into things which make you feel uncomfortable, because you will either become successful and the thing will work out and it'll be this great experience that went really well, or even if it goes wrong and it breaks and everything shatters, you can still turn that into a beautiful piece of artwork and actually proudly have those scars and those cracks and those fractures be part of your story. I did something when I launched the 8-week consulting challenge, however many months ago that was now. I did this thing where if you referred a friend, so everyone had a referral code that signed up, and if you gave your referral code to somebody and they signed up and joined the 8-week challenge, then you got access to what I called my book of lowlights, Brock's book of lowlights. And essentially what it was I went through and I thought about what were the most embarrassing things that I'd done in my career so far. What were like the biggest losses, the biggest L's that I took, and I wrote them in a document, and it was like really like it was very uncomfortable to do. Like I was just cringing the whole time, basically reliving. It's those sorts of things that when you lie awake at night, you're like, why the fuck did I do that, right? Like, why did I say that? Why did I think that was a good idea? And I was like reliving all of these by typing them out. But it felt really good to do as well, to put it all out on paper, because like overall my career so far is something that I'm very proud of, but I'm also super conscious that there are some things that I've done where I'm just like, what the hell was I thinking? And it's really interesting because people don't share that, don't show that off. You look at someone's LinkedIn profile, you look at my LinkedIn profile, what will you see? You'll see the things that I shared that I was proud of. You'll see the promotions that I got along the way, but you're not going to see a list of the 10 biggest mistakes that I made in my career. I think that's very interesting because I think people actually really value that kind of transparency when it does come. People are interested to see what people's biggest mistakes are, and yet like we don't share them. Even me, where I've done this thing where I've typed out this list of 10 biggest mistakes and kind of as part of it I wrote a bit of a broader essay about failure and my thoughts on it. I've actually done that, and I was sitting here this morning thinking like, why wouldn't I share that more broadly, rather than it being something that only people who, refer somebody to the 8-week challenge get? What's to stop me from just like posting it on LinkedIn or literally reading through it on a video like this? And it's really interesting because it's really uncomfortable, and I don't want to do it, but maybe there would be value in it. I don't know. But again, with that quote that I just read out from Ray Dalio, whose book Principles, just the first line is the key one. Go to the pain rather than avoid it. I've had a few, so as I record this, in the last 2 weeks, I think I've done 2 things that were like really quite uncomfortable, but not like in a bad way, but things that I was very nervous about. And I guess the main way that I kind of rationalized both of those things and kind of tried to get myself in the right headspace to just go ahead and do them anyway, was just thinking about that idea of leaning into pain, for lack of a better word. Same thing like when you're exercising, like often exercise hurts, but that's often a sign that it's good, right? And it's challenging, it's pushing you. So you want to lean into the things that cause you a little bit of pain, things that cause you a little bit of stress. Not chronic stress, but acute stress, acute pain in the moment, but then it's fine afterwards. And because I think when you go there, when you lean into those things, that's where you grow the most. Again, those 2 things that I've leaned into in the past 2 weeks, I was very nervous about beforehand, very uncomfortable, like I said, kind of stressed me out beforehand, but they're both done now. And I look back on them and I go, those were 2 really good experiences that I got, and I'm glad that I did it. So, and there was one more quote, again, that just out of the 3 quotes I got emailed this morning, 2 of them were just like perfectly related to what I was going to talk about anyway this morning. I was just going to talk about kintsugi, but and then these 2 quotes came up. The second one comes from the book Anti-Fragile by Nassim Taleb. And here's what he said. How do you innovate? First, try to get in trouble. I mean serious, but not terminal trouble. I hold, it is beyond speculation, rather a conviction, that innovation and sophistication spark from initial situations of necessity in ways that go far beyond the satisfaction of such necessity. And the main thing that I like there is his first 2 lines. He says, how do you innovate? First, try to get in trouble. And to me, this plays into this whole idea of leaning into things that you are uncomfortable with, because you lean into something that you're uncomfortable with, and you're probably going to experience a little bit of pain, as Ray Dalio said. You might even get yourself in trouble, as Nassim Taleb says. But that trouble and that stress and that pushing of your own boundaries is how you innovate, right? I mean, Nassim Taleb is talking more from a, creating new things and inventions perspective, but you could think of innovation as just finding new parts of yourself, building out new skills. So I think you lean in to something which makes you uncomfortable. And I think part of what helps to do that is to, I don't know, for me, what helps me lean into uncomfortable things is to literally think about the fact that I am leaning into it voluntarily. Like, why am I doing it? Why do I want to lean into this? Because I know that it's going to get me a little bit stressed, get me a little bit of trouble, not terminal trouble, but a little bit of trouble, put me under the pump a little bit. And when you get put under the pump, well, it's like they say, diamonds are made under pressure, right? So when you get put under the pump, you get put under pressure, you either make diamonds or you break. But in those moments that you break, you can fill the cracks with gold. And the gold is all the lessons that you learn. It's humility, knowing that you're not untouchable. You do make mistakes. You do mess things up. And it gives you something to be vulnerable about as well and connect with people. I think some of the best connections that you can make with people are when you share vulnerabilities, things that didn't work, things where you stuffed up. And like, frankly, if you had a life where everything went to plan and everything went exactly how you wanted it, I feel like the quality of your relationships would suffer because no one would relate to you. Nobody would understand what it's like to have that happen. People would probably resent you for it. And so those moments where, we break the ceramics and things explode all around us can actually be the gold in life. So I just wanted to talk about that this morning because I feel like everything in my life in the past 2 weeks has been pointing towards that one theme. And I speak about it a lot, but I think it is crucial. And when I talk about these things, I'm like talking about them as much for myself as anyone else because it's always uncomfortable to lean into uncomfortable things. And I need to remind myself that I think any significant achievement I've had to date so far in my life has been from leaning into uncomfortable things. I actually think that I was better at it when I was like a grad. I think I probably was less afraid to fail when I started my career when I was a grad. I think as I've become more senior, I've probably, part of it is probably ego. I think part of it is trying to live up to expectations of others. Like when you join as a grad or, you're early on in your career, I think one of the best things you have on your side is low expectations, relatively speaking, right? People generally are understanding of the fact that you're at the very start and you're still learning. Doesn't mean people don't get frustrated still, but people have a lower expectation of you as a grad versus what you do when, you're a manager, an associate director or a director and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's something that I'm trying to remind myself a lot this year and into next year. When I have an idea and the natural reaction is to pull away from it, not want to go chase it because it makes me feel uncomfortable, it's almost like a proxy for deciding that maybe that is the thing that I should go and chase. Because if my natural reaction is to kind of, feel a bit uncomfortable about it, perhaps the answer is to actually lean into that thing and conquer it. Because that's the other thing as well. Everything that makes you uncomfortable, but you still lean into and you complete, you conquer it, right? And everything you conquer gives you a greater and greater track record for reasons to believe in yourself, to take on greater and greater challenges because you've conquered all the things before. Whereas when you don't lean into those things and you don't do them, well then what's your track record? Your track record is of shying away from those things. Yeah. Anyway, that's enough babbling on from me this week. I hope you guys have a good week. Cheers.